Greetings, dear listener. You're listening to the Jaunty Mantis podcast. This is Jesse,
This is Maddie.
and we are presenting to you today a special bonus episode.
True
Why?
story.
Yeah, why do we do these?
Well, the Jaunty Mantis is released in seasons, 12 episodes per. And the reason for that is so we have time to take a breather, get extra recordings done, make sure we don't fall behind. So if you're listening to this, that means that we're in between seasons.
We made it.
So we'll be back soon. And until then, enjoy this episode, this bonus episode. It's not necessarily about role playing game topics, but it is very nerd adjacent.
And we hope you enjoy it.
Yep. Have you ever seen the show Avatar the Last Airbender?
I have seen the show Avatar the Last Airbender, though I prefer Legend of Korra.
Yes, so do I. Legend of Korra is the better show.
And Avatar is amazing. I think Korra is better.
Well, the thing about Legend of Korra is that Legend of Korra cannot be as good as it is without Avatar the Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Like my girlfriend and I are now watching Avatar, and that is a difficult show to start, to start watching. And I kept having to say, like, look, this show is good. It may not be impressing you now, but let's give it a chance because The Legend of Korra is awesome.
Yeah, that's the same thing with like so much of like watching Ahsoka. Like you want to get someone into it and tell them about it if they don't know much about Star Wars. Like, so you're gonna need to watch like 7 seasons of a cartoon show and a movie that's not great. And then this whole other show that's like 5 seasons long, but it's gonna be worth it for this one 5 seconds of video that will make you have extreme feels. So if you prep your neural network to have an emotional reaction, this will be really great.
Yeah.
Or you can just watch Andor and just have your socks knocked off. Like,
right.
Without a whole lot of background.
I think a lot of TV should be made with the idea that it's 3 seasons and they have a beginning, middle, and end in mind. Like they're ready for it. I think we would be better off if shows were like, yeah, it's a 3-season show. There's about 8 to 10 episodes per season, and we're going to be done after season 3 concludes. I'm here for that,
I say most shows, yes, but if the show has the right format, like, so one of my favorite shows on a streaming service, not TV, but a streaming service right now, is For All Mankind.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen any of For All Mankind?
No, I've heard a lot about it though.
It's what Brennan Braga is the showrunner on that, and perfected their craft post Battlestar, or during Battlestar post.
Isn't it a Ronald D. Moore joint?
Oh, is it Ronald D. Moore? It's one of those guys that got their start in Star Trek, like ruining Star Trek or something. So
ruining Star Trek? You mean making the best series in Star Trek Deep Space Nine?
Oh, or they're the guys that took over in season 2. I'm getting my timeline confused.
The placement of so the thing about Deep Space Nine is there's a series of important showrunner-esque or writer-esque or producer people, and they come in and out of the show, and you can point to like Ronald D. Moore and you can say like, well, he's responsible for the good stuff. But the truth is like they're all responsible for the good stuff. And I think Brandon Braga is one of those individuals.
Yeah, it was Moore and Braga, I think, maybe, if I'm remembering correctly now, that took over when the showrunner left to go do Voyager. And this is a fun ritual that my co-host Maddie used to have when both those shows were syndicated. He told me about it. He'd watch bad Star Trek and then he'd watch good Star Trek because they were
just loved it.
It was Voyager and then Deep Space Nine.
Voyager's awful.
But
Voyager
they
is the
found
worst
Amelia
Star Trek.
Earhart on an alien planet.
No, no. Look, Voyager is the worst Star Trek ever made. And the reason is because,
Wait, worse than Enterprise? That's like a
yes,
bold. Okay.
Enterprise is better because at least Enterprise is like, at least they were like, well, here's what we're going to do with Enterprise. And then they set out and tried to do it. And okay, well, let me backtrack. Voyager is the worst Star Trek because the concept was amazing. The concept was this ship is going to get thrown into another quadrant in the Star Trek setting, a place where there's no Klingons, there's no Federations, there's no Federation, there's no Romulans, there's nothing you recognize is there. And like, so the potential to do anything, the idea of like a crew struggling to survive, the kinds of stories you can tell about like having to make sacrifices, and they tried to do all of that and it just failed miserably. It's like, it makes me compare this back to our Ahsoka episode about like them being in the other galaxy now in this, spoilers for Ahsoka, but like, you have this amazing concept, something that hasn't really been done in Star Trek before, and is pure Star Trek because it's about exploration, going boldly where no person has gone before. And then a lot of the episodes like somehow involve them like finding the Borg and Klingons, and a Romulan. You know what I mean? And it's like they aborted the concept as
And
fast as
amphibian
possible.
sex.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just like the holographic doctor is terrible, not the character, not the actor. The character and the actor are great. The concept is terrible. Kill the doctor and then like show us what it's like to not have a fucking Starfleet doctor on a Starfleet ship. You know what I mean? And like, what do they have to do to like fix that role in their crew? One of the most interesting things about what happens to Thrawn in Ahsoka is like you look at all these changes they've had to make to a Star Destroyer, to stormtroopers, to everything. And you're just like, your brain is just excited about like, wow, look at these fucking stormtroopers. Look at this gold plated, you know, portions of their ship. Like, what have they had to do to survive? You know? And that's what they should have doubled and tripled down on in Voyager. And they didn't. They just played it safe.
Yeah, but here's the other thing too that I think is why that premise doesn't work for Star Trek so well. The people you're going to throw into this strange unknown with all these unknown peoples and unknown cultures are professional explorers and scientists of an organization whose goal it is to go meet new people and find out what's out there. So there was never going to be a reveal of some race that in the Delta Quadrant that was going to be more shocking than anything they could find at the edge of the Alpha or the Beta Quadrant.
So true.
Because, like at that point in Star Trek's, how many alien space gods had there been already? How many spaceborne entities? Like, oh, we found, these people can turn invisible and they're lizards and they really like to hunt. And that's what their culture's about. Like, okay, the Hirogen, great. But I will say the thing that I love about having watched all of Voyager is when I get the Voyager jokes on lower decks, I can just howl and Carrie looks at me blankly. So
yeah, I didn't expect aliens or phenomenon that was going to really weird me out. I just wanted to see what it would be like for a Starfleet crew to be pushed to its absolute limits and then broken.
Yeah, they backed away from the breaking and absolute limits real fast.
Yep.
But again, they're from a post scarcity utopian society that can replicate matter.
So there's an episode on Deep Space Nine where they're deep into the Dominion War. Spoilers for Deep Space Nine, a show that's been out for like what 20 fucking years. there's an episode during the Dominion War where some of the Ferengi who live on the station and get wrapped up in the mix of this war. And I think it's Quark who makes this he has this great almost monologue like commentary where he's talking to the other Ferengi and he's like, "Oh yeah, humans are great when they have all of their stuff. When you take their stuff away from them, they become barbaric and savage and destructive." And that's what that whole episode is about. Like, he's like, they'll turn on us. Like, they'll eat each other if they have to. Like, I'm paraphrasing for the idea, but that's basically what he's trying to communicate. He's like, as long as they have their federation and they have their unlimited resources and they have dominant control over their part of the galaxy, he's like, they're fun, they're great. As soon as you start taking that away from them, they turn on you. And that is what I wanted to see in Voyager.
Yeah, especially with the setup of having the mixed crew of like the Maquis and the Federation. Like,
yeah, there's a lot
how
of
how long did that last as like a sticking point of like tension? Like, the first 12 episodes? Like,
yeah,
and
it was,
like,
it was
we're all
over before
together
you
now.
knew it. Yeah, it was over before you knew it. You know, there's so many great things from Deep Space Nine, like, you know, the way that the Federation and the Klingons make an alliance, and then at the very end when the war is over and the Klingons are opening up their barrels of blood wine to fucking celebrate their victory, and the humans are just like, ugh, fuck this. You know, like, they won't even drink with them. They're just like, they just pack up and go home, and the Klingons are like, what the fuck is wrong? Like, we won, drink. You know, like, the Klingons are like, this is what it's like to be us. You know, we fought in this amazing war and we won. And the humans are just exhausted and they're disgusted by the Klingons. And you're like, how long before this tenuous alliance snaps?
Are they disgusted by the Klingons or are they disgusted by themselves?
Yes, exactly.
And that's the thing I love about Deep Space Nine is it's just like, yeah, we've given you all these ideas. It's a very 90s. I think it is older than 20 years. Let's not think too much about that exact number.
No,
but it's a very like good TV of the 90s is with, I don't know, what was that? Iron Age of comics as well. Like,
yeah,
it's interrogating with a darker lens what has come before, and it's not doing it just to be edgy. I mean, like, the whole spiritual conflict and the whole, like, you know, the way it mirrors the Balkans war and everything. Like, it's interrogating, like, what is our level of tolerance for other people, like, because these religious fanatics are like, I got to deal with this, and this is silly, and like, we have these values, and I'm going to have to betray them, or our society is going to end because the Romulans will join the Dominion. Like, it's a fake. It is real.
There's an episode when it's right after Worf joins is officially a main character on Deep Space Nine, and he has so much difficulty getting used to life on the station, and one or two characters has to tell him, like, look, this is not a straight up Federation deal. Like, we are deep space, you know, a deep space station. Like, we've had to make adjustments for the way things work out here. And ultimately, Worf decides to live on the Defiant, you know what I mean? Like, in order to solve the problem. But that show was doing what I wanted to be more fully explored in Voyager. And when it comes to Enterprise, it's like, look, was it a great show? No, it was not a great show, but it was fucking better than Voyager because they were setting out to, they did what they set out to do. It just wasn't interesting.
Yeah.
You know, until like later on when they were like, oh, fuck it, we're getting canceled. Like, let's just start doing this, this, and this. And then it started getting interesting.
And the Zindi joined the Federation. Eventually. Yeah, I have a friend who's watching it right now, and because this is in the game group where we played the Star Trek Adventures game,
about this. Yeah,
we talk about that a lot, and they're watching, doing a full watch through of Enterprise, and they're in season 2 now. And like, yeah, they get arrested and go to prison a lot.
like, yeah.
Like the whole, he's like, season 2 just seems about different characters being in prison. Like,
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that Star Trek game because this is a gaming podcast, and maybe we should bring it back to those details.
oh, I
But
was going to talk about the Avatar RPG at the beginning, but I'll talk about Star Trek.
I didn't
I've
even
actually
realize there
played
was an
some.
Avatar RPG. You
Yeah, no,
played
it broke like crowdfunding records for RPGs on Kickstarter. Like they
That's
made like
brilliant.
more than $1 million, and it's powered by the apocalypse, I think.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah.
perfect. I know what I'm adding to my wish list on Drive Through RPGs. So, but you played in a Star Trek game with a GM who was like a Star Trek expert, right?
Yes. Yes. And he's probably cringing because I know he's a listener hearing you say that. But I hope you're not. You are a Star Trek expert, and your deep, deep knowledge of the Star Trek universe and also the BattleTech universe. Another shout out. Yeah,
Mhm.
like it was just phenomenal.
So
Um,
how did those sessions go? What were the storylines like?
so there's one episode of Strange New Worlds. Have you watched Strange New Worlds?
No, even though I'm absolutely in love with Anson Mount.
It's so, I like it so much. I like it so, so much. I hope you will like it too when you watch it.
Yeah, me
It
too.
feels really good to me.
Yeah.
Like make the Vorn scary again. And they did. So sorry, Gorn, make the Gorn scary again. So there's this episode where they have to do this negotiation with this group of people that control this narrow band of space, trying to get them to join the Federation. But then there's also a delegation from the Klingon Empire there or something. And, you know, they've just, I don't know if you watched Discovery, but that was the Klingon War.
2 seasons of Discovery I've seen.
So you saw the War one in season 1,
Mm-hmm.
where, yeah. Um, so yeah, they're trying to like get the deal with these people, and surprised they do. The way they do it's really good and really interesting. It's Dharma and Danagra level good in my
Oh,
opinion,
nice.
for
Mm-hmm.
like weird aliens and how to communicate to them. And also again, shout out to Lower Decks. The guy from that culture that's on Lower Decks is pretty great. um but yeah, so that was the opening thing. So it opened up an area of space that is in the setting, as the Shackleton Expanse. It's this unexplored region of space with all these weird magnetic storms that make it really hard to get through. And the opening of this one passage made it finally plausible. And so, in the spirit of the piece, that basically there were, a couple of ships that were going to go through, our Excelsior class ship, of which my character was the captain, an Andorian Starfleet science doctor officer who had now was a
Oh,
captain.
wow.
Yeah, he was real swole. He had like a uniform version with like no sleeves, so he could have, suns out, guns out. He was always like trying to get the crew to come on a fun run with him. Like he had the engineers for morale turn one of the cargo decks into an ice hockey rink to play
Nice.
Andorian ice hockey, which actually turned out really great because the other ships were Klingon. And so, because we were at peace and this new area was open, to make it fair, we were going to go through together. And the Klingon ships were like modern, like there was a bird of prey, there was a Katinga cruiser, and then there was one of those weird reliquary bone ships.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that was,
Cool.
and so immediately it was a race, like to get there first.
Mm-hmm.
And we did, but then we picked up a Klingon distress signal. And so, and this is where the guy running it, Mark, his sci-fi knowledge got really crazy, because like there was some virus that was basically like making the Klingons run around on their ship and like shout Shakespeare. Like definitely
Nice.
some Star Trek
Yes.
nods. But yeah, it was a very much like a horror element. Like they're all sort of melting. It's a silicate virus that only affected Klingons. We found a cure. We're all have, when we got back to Starfleet, we're going to publish white papers on it because, and we gave that technology to the Klingons. So we wound up, there was a doctor who wound up being the captain of the other Klingon ship after a challenge. And we wound up forging this. And you know the Herc,
No.
the Klingons' gods
Oh, okay.
that were too much trouble that they killed them. Like the Klingons were
Right.
invaded by some alien race and blah blah blah.
Right.
So in Mark's game, those bone ships from Discovery were
Mhm.
Herc ships that the Klingons seized,
Okay.
which is why they
Nice.
look so different. And then we basically found the Herc homeworld, and we found like this virus and the silicate technology, and we found what tribbles were. Tribbles were like a sentient like race of like we called them the Grimlon because we're super mature. And they look like gremlins or
Uh,
Mogwai. So
uh,
yeah. But basically what we found is like the Herc had this fungal technology and that could grow ships, and they basically like used it to fuck with the Klingons and make them into like a worker caste or whatever, and that's why they're
mhm.
so, or I don't know, they were violent before that, whatever. And the tribbles, the reason the Klingons hate these is they have ancestral memories of the war where they had to try and take the world from these very strong and viciously clawed little fuckers who we invited to our ship for a celebration of friendship. And we had some ice hockey, we had some concerts and music performances to show them who the Federation was. We won
Right.
them over. They gave us a database of their music. It was a really touching moment. Um, yeah, I'm
Nice.
sorry. That's just rambly nonsense. It was really great.
No, you know what? All of that is like 1,000 times better than any episode of Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry. I mean no disrespect to the people that worked on Star Trek Voyager. It just didn't work for me.
I can't think of a single episode I've watched. I was like, damn.
I have had people who are Voyager fans try to explain the damn in Voyager to me, and I'm like, we're just not seeing it here. We're just not seeing eye to eye. Sorry, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, there's that nod to the original series you're going to have in every Star Trek that came after the original series.
Mm-hmm.
What was the tweet that I saw that I think summed it up really great? Like Star Trek The Next Generation will have an episode named Explosion, and it's all about a big explosion on the ship. And then original series would have an episode named like Hark, What Soul Goes There? A Brother, where everybody is naked because of a psychedelic space god. So there's going to
Mm-hmm.
be some silliness. And like, this is my example of why you have to suffer through season 1 of Deep Space Nine. The Rumpelstiltskin episode, which I think is like episode 2. I'm just
Yeah.
like, same old Star Trek,
Uh-huh.
cultural reference to Earth, energy being, woo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hated almost all the holodeck shit in Next Gen. Like,
Mm-hmm.
all
That's
the
fair.
holodeck comes alive episodes.
That's
Um,
fair.
I really liked the ones where Captain Janeway murdered this dude's wife, and they were convinced she was a fairy in the Irish pub that came alive, and they trapped the hero. No, I'm kidding. I hated that too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Vic grew on me in Deep Space Nine, which is a testament to the show.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like Vic is a great character, and he shouldn't be, but he is. You know, Deep Space Nine is a love letter to Star Trek. It like I don't know what season that officially starts happening in, but it goes from like emulation to homage, and that's where the difference is. And the other and Voyager was never able to do that, and I don't think Enterprise was able to do that either. But like Deep Space Nine was like, yeah, we're gonna do a lot of the same things you know and love in Star Trek, but we're gonna do it from the point of view of somebody who loves it because you love it. And we're not gonna waste your time with just another thing. We're it's gonna be an exploration of why we love this thing in Star Trek. And I think that's what Vic is. It's just like, yeah, for some reason in Star Trek they have crazy sentient holodeck people, and Deep Space Nine is like, yeah, but that's Star Trek. We love it, you know? So like let's really like enjoy this. And then
You
by
want
the
to
end of the
talk
show,
about
you're like, I love that guy.
you want to talk about loving homage, Lower Decks, man.
Yeah, I have not watched any Lower Decks. I just
Oh,
refuse to pay.
you
I
so need to watch Lower Decks.
I just refuse to pay for Paramount Plus right now. I did watch. I did actually watch this third season of Picard. I did watch that because my brother came over and logged into his Paramount Plus account while he was here, and then I managed to watch it real quick before I got kicked out of his account. Yeah. What did you think of Picard season 3?
I liked it.
Yeah. I liked it for the most part. Like this was going to be the best post next gen stories we were going to get, but that's kind of because the bar was really low though. And
I really liked season 1. Season 2 almost instantly I was like, nope.
I didn't watch either of those. But I liked
I mean,
Picard season 3 except for what they did with Worf. Like why is he the fucking comic relief? I don't understand this. This guy's life is filled with tragedy. You know, like the first his first like romantic connection to the Klingon Empire. He falls in love with this woman, she gets murdered, he has to raise their child and he's unable to do it, and like everybody he gets involved with, Jadzia Dax, fucking dies. His son is worthless. His house is dishonored. His own brother would rather have his memory wiped and then like join a different like house under a fake name. It's like this character is so fucking tragic. Like I wanted him to be this like wizened old monk of a character who like has found a way to like keep existing in a universe of tragedy that he can't escape. But instead, he's the jokey guy.
okay. I'm going to say it one more time and I'm going to figure out a way to make this happen. You need to watch Lower Decks. You so need, like, your brain is so primed for that show. Like, but I will say this season, they run into, you remember the shuttle piloting, like Wesley's experience at Starfleet Academy where he joins Nova Squad and they get that kid killed and they try and do a cover up. You remember who was the actor who played the leader of Nova Squad?
Oh, it's somebody famous. It was River
It's the
Phoenix.
guy that's Tom Paris on Voyager.
Oh, that's right. Why did I think it was River Phoenix? Anyway, keep going. All right.
So they run into that guy in Lower Decks.
Nice.
Locarno, I think is his name. Yeah, Locarno. They run into him and they're like talking to him. And the whole time, the guy manning the comms, who's one of the main characters, is like, does that guy look just like Tom Paris to you? And then the other guy's like, no, I don't see it. And then like 5 minutes later, he's like, no, exactly, like same face.
That's brilliant.
There's an episode where like they've turned Voyager into a museum and like they accidentally knock something over and 7 of 9's recharging pods infects it with a Borg virus. And so all the animatronics in the museum start coming to life. Like there's the macrophage like comes out of like a vent. There's like a little Borg infected animatronic of the amphibians that Paris and Janeway turned in. Like, oh, you need to watch this show. Like,
wow.
And people who don't watch Trek, Carrie likes it. Carrie likes it and is not a huge Trekkie. Although she's turning into one now because of Lower Decks.
I could never be a Trekkie.
The conversation we just had, I mean, I think
the original series is garbage. Like
so
I know people are gonna want to are gonna start sending me death threats because of that, but like my understanding is that in order to be a Trekkie, you have to at least respect and appreciate the original series, and I don't. I think it's garbage.
Oh, I wasn't aware that was the requirements. I guess I'm not a Trekkie either.
That's what I've been told by actual nerds. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like I think it's too corny. I think Shatner is ridiculous. I have no respect for this character. I mean I like Captain Kirk in the movies way more than in the show. I think he's ridiculous in the show. You know, it's all the worst. You know, the kind of stories they were trying to tell and the time period. I can respect that part of it, of is trying to be progressive, you know, for its time and advance society through a look at of a positive future. Like, I'm not trying to shit on that. It's just a lot of it. It's unwatchable. It's the same reason why I can't watch Doctor Who. It's like, ugh.
oh yeah. See, that got to me when I was like a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, it can't all be peace keeps war, my friend.
No, it can't all be peace keeps war. Yeah. Speaking of Farscape, I still try to get my girlfriend to watch that, and it is not taking. It is my curse.
Do you still own the DVDs?
I do, but I've also purchased them through Amazon Prime Video, so I can watch them at the drop of a hat.
Okay.
Yeah, I still have Peace Keeps War. I still got it.
Okay.
You know, that crazy cover that's like part of Sylvester Stallone's Cobra and like an upside down Voyager, speaking of, in the background.
Isn't Hermione on that?
Probably. I'll have to find it. It's in storage at the moment. So, dear listener, my best friend here and his wife did some time in China, you know, living over there and teaching English and living there. And they found, well, you tell it. What am I going to get the fucking Dwarf Day wrong again? Here, you tell it.
Okay, so Farscape, great sci-fi show. Matt, when we lived together, got us started watching it and we burned through all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And went to finish up the series, they made like a made for a movie called Peacekeepers War. So we were at a DVD shop, and is that what it was called? Did I get it wrong?
Just keep going. Just keep going.
No,
Just keep going.
it needs to be right.
No, it's Peace Keeps War.
The
Keep going.
Peacekeeper
Keep
War.
going. The
Okay,
Peacekeeper
anyway.
Wars.
No, what's the actual name of the movie?
It's the Peacekeeper Wars.
Okay, the Peacekeeper Wars is the actual name of the movie. So we're at a DVD shop and we find the bootleg version, but it's titled Peacekeeps War, and it has an upside down Voyager on it. It's just like a hodgepodge of vaguely sci-fi things, like they redesigned the cover. So I was like, I have to get this for Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Not, for the piracy or the movie, but like just for the cover.
Yeah.
So
I should dig it out of storage and frame it. It's wonderful. It's basically Ben Brow God, like it's not Ben Bro, that's the guy who's in Hearthstone.
Ben Browder.
Ben Browder.
Oh, from Stargate?
So Farscape is like my most favorite show ever, followed very closely, like breathing down its neck, by The Umbrella Academy, which I think would be my favorite show, except that Farscape means so much more to me creatively and emotionally, and it's a big part of who I am today. And the cover of this has John Crichton, the main character, but it's like Sylvester Stallone's body as he's holding up like two submachine guns from like the movie Cobra. It's like a really bad. I'll have to dig it up and take a picture of it and put it on the Jawanti Mantis at X.
There was I think the Hermione thing might not be on that one, but there was like a Harry Potter one I saw in the store where they had photoshopped her head like onto like some lady with like cleavage in a party dress's body. And I'm like, she's like 13. Like, what the
Yeah, man, they don't care. They know what sells.
Well, do we have any other thoughts about the Trek?
No, except that where do you think Trek is going to go now that Alex Kurtzman is a bad person who ruined everything, according to the last person I talked about a Star Trek before this?
I don't know anything about this.
No, see, I let people talk about things with me, and I probably shouldn't. Anyway, listeners, if you love or hate Star Trek, or if you hate me because I think the original series of Star Trek is garbage,
And so do I.
then you can write into the John T. Mantis. Jesse, do we have a way for them to do that? Yep. We have a Gmail account.
Yeah, we have a Gmail address, the John T. Mantis at gmail.com.
That's right. And social media, we got that.
We are Wanty Mantis on X, and also John T. Mantis on Threads.
Perfect. And until next time, get out there and don't watch Star Trek.
Yeah, don't watch Voyager or the original series.
Or play some fucking role-playing games or shit.
Yeah.